Hey guys, it's Danae, and I am so blessed to be back with another episode of a Millennial Voice, the show. I'm here with the Philadelphia Sunday Sun, as I always am. And this week, I have a first. It's my first time ever interviewing a comedian, and he's also from Philly, which makes it just that much more special for us. So, Marcus, I'm going to let you introduce yourself really quick, and then we're going to get into the show.
What's going on, people? It's your boy Marcus Levar, Philadelphia's own. For those that don't know me, I'm 28 years old, and I'm Philadelphia's next rising star, man. I can't wait to introduce myself to you guys more in another way. I don't know what else to say about myself. I'm not really boastful, but hey, here I am. So
Right. So comedy, that's such a big thing. Can you take us through the moment when you decided, like, yo, I'm a comedian, this is what I do, I'm funny? Like, how did you realize that you were funny?
Honestly, I knew I was going to do comedy in sixth grade.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in sixth grade, and I was always like making people laugh, and I always hung around funny people. And my dad was like a real funny person. Like everybody that knew him, he just knew how to make people laugh.
Uh-huh.
And I always thought it was cool. So I knew in that year in my life that I was going to be a comedian, but I didn't tell nobody because I thought that once you start telling people that you are a comedian or that you're funny, now they expect more out of you. And I'm like, I didn't want that
Right.
pressure. I wanted you to
Right.
laugh because you thought it was funny.
Right.
So I never told anybody. And then finally, when I got old enough, I guess I was like 21, I dropped out of school because I knew what I wanted to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to go do comedy. And here I
Wow.
am.
So for almost 10 years, nobody knew you wanted to be a comedian.
Yeah, pretty much.
How did you manage to keep that under wraps?
I was scared to tell people, so it was pretty easy not to tell nobody. I just didn't say it, but people thought I was funny, so I always
Okay.
it was like I was practicing in a weird
Right.
way. I was always like practicing to be a better funny person,
Okay.
but not really working towards being a comedian.
Okay.
And yeah.
And so nobody had an idea. Was there nobody who was like, oh my God, Marcus, you're hilarious, you should consider a career in comedy?
Not comedy, because people didn't really before, like around that time, people started to see comedy as like a career thing. But
Mm-hmm.
before Kevin Hart really blew up, you didn't really hear people talking about, yo, you should go do, like, you had to be like really hilarious
Right.
for people to be like, yo, you should do comedy. And I knew a couple people, like my best friend is one of them people. We used to say it to him, but you didn't say it to too many people because it wasn't really a career thing. It was like something people did, and if you were all right at it, you might have got famous.
That's so interesting. So were you at that one lunch table in the cafeteria that like was cutting up the whole time? Were you like that bull?
Yeah, I was at every lunch table. I couldn't sit down. That was my problem. Yeah, I would just go from place to place and talk to everybody.
Awesome, awesome. So you have this 10-year gap, before you really let people know what you're like sincerely interested in, which is comedy. So what do you do in that 10-year period to prepare yourself for where you're at now?
Like what kind of things did I do to become a funnier person?
Yeah, how did you refine your skill?
I hung around funny people. Like all my best friends throughout my life were always funny, like the
Mm,
funniest people in the class or in the school or whatever. So I always kind of like studied people like that in a weird way. Like
okay.
I hung around them people and I picked up the things that people found funny in general,
Hmm.
different groups found funny, and I kind of just took from that. And I was like, all right,
Yeah.
so these type of people like these type of jokes, and people that do this like these type of jokes, and I just
Mm.
kind of created my own style through that.
Right, right. So you mentioned Kevin Hart not that long ago, and obviously he's from Philly. Does that add an extra level of pressure knowing that one of the biggest comedians in the world right now is from your city?
Not really, because there's so many great comedians from all over the country. Like, and I mean great, like if you were to see them on stage with Kev, you probably wouldn't know which one you thought was a greater show that night. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So it was there's so many great comedians from all over the country and even all over the world, but namely this country, that I can't say that it puts pressure on me that Kev is so big, because in a couple years there could be somebody else from
Right.
Oklahoma
Yeah.
what you guys think is that's that great. So you know that I don't even let that pressure me.
Awesome. But would you say that seeing him come from Philly to being where he's at now, would you say that that's been inspirational for you?
Definitely has been inspirational though. I won't let it pressure me, but I will let it inspire me, man. I will let that drive me, and just being some of the places and even knowing some of the people that Kev came up and they helped him along his way. That
Awesome.
inspires me too. It feels good to be
Yeah.
from Philadelphia and do comedy.
Right. So you mentioned that there's comedians all over the country, all over the world, etc., that are really good at what they do. And so I'm wondering, what makes a good comic in your opinion?
A good comedian, in my opinion, is an entertainer.
Okay.
I can't give you a style of comedy that'll work because there's so many different styles of comedy because there's so many different people.
Mm-hmm.
Comedy is for the people, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And people like all different types of styles of comedies. But I could say a good comedian is an entertainer first.
Okay.
And a good comedian uses everything they have in their tool belt, like Batman, to kind of get the job done.
Okay.
You gotta use whatever you got. I get on stage, I'll be telling jokes. Sometimes the jokes don't work. I'll
Mm.
start doing jokes where I gotta start singing and dancing and stuff.
Yeah.
You gotta use whatever you got. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So it just kind of,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So have you ever, I mean, you just mentioned sometimes, the jokes fly, sometimes they don't. Have you ever completely bombed on stage?
Yeah, I've
And
definitely.
okay. And how do you recover from moments like that?
You mean in the moment? You just get off the
Yeah.
stage. Get
Okay.
off the stage and get out the building, man.
Yeah.
Don't stick around. Do
Okay.
not stick around at all.
Okay. But so what have you learned from those moments where your jokes just were not hitting that night?
I've paid attention in the moment. I kind of like think about what's going on, and I see, oh man, I should have walked into the audience more because I'm too far from them, or I should have walked. I should have did this joke where I do this singing joke sooner so I could grab their attention, or I should have.
Mm,
There's always something. There's
yeah.
always something that you could have did. It's never
Yeah.
just the audience. But
Yeah.
yeah, in those moments that I've noticed that it's different things I've learned.
Yeah. So just from talking to you, I'm hearing that a lot of the entertainment component comes with a well-structured show. Would you say that that's the case?
Oh yeah.
Okay. And so how do you pre-plan that sort of structure on a show? I know it's like, because obviously you come up with the jokes beforehand, correct?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, how do you structure the show to ensure that people are having the best experience, having the best time?
Well, that's on two people. That's on the comedians and that's on the promoters.
Yeah, but
So,
for you specifically, like, how do you do that?
oh well, my part of the show is just a comedian.
Mhm.
Uh, Really, all I could do is show up and analyze the situation and try to do my best. You know what I'm saying? Because
Right.
again, if the promoters set you up in a situation where the people are seated 50 feet away from the stage, you know what I'm saying?
And
And
it
then
makes it like less.
it's a different thing. And then there's
Yeah.
TVs all over the place, and you know
Mm,
what I'm saying? It makes it a different environment. So you gotta it's different things. You gotta walk in there, kind of peep what's going on and go, okay, all right, I gotta take it this way. I gotta tackle
right.
it this way.
That's and I'm just thinking about what you're saying, how of course, your position as a comedian is to make people laugh, but how there's so many other factors that can affect you having a good show, because all you can really do is come up with the content and show up. But if you're in a stadium or arena or a room that's not conducive for you to be able to connect directly with your audience, then that just doesn't seem fair. So how do you on your end ensure that you have as little external issues as possible, namely with this, the state, I'm about to say station, namely, like, with the area that you're in.
Again, like I said, I got jokes where I sing. Like I got a joke where I do a Luther Vandross song,
Mm,
and usually no matter where I am, if I start singing Luther in the middle of a club, and if you weren't paying attention at that point, you gonna start paying attention somewhere in that song. Like, what's this guy doing? You know what
right.
I'm saying? So you kind of it grabs people,
Right.
and hopefully the punchline holds you there for a minute. So then I can get to the next joke. The next joke should get you. Usually, like I have a and I mean a lot of comedians do. I'm not gonna say just me, but I have a way that I do my material where if it's going one way, I go, okay, I could throw a couple more jokes in there before I need to hit them with a real heavy hitter.
Yeah.
But if it's going another way, I'll go, okay, this joke kind of went shaky. This joke grabbed them. Now I need another heavy hitter. And
Right.
maybe another one after that, just to kind of keep the flow going. So you guys know, oh, this guy's good. Let me pay attention. So
Okay.
there's a
Okay.
psychology to comedy. There really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. That's what I'm learning. How much preparation goes into a show on your end? Making sure that you can memorize the jokes, write the jokes, etc.
Uh, Not before a show. I wouldn't say there's a lot of preparation before a show. There's just the preparation comes in me doing the jokes over and over again. Just getting on stages, open mics, writing. I'm always listening to my old recordings of me doing comedy. After I get off, I always record myself and I'm listening to it. And I'm just thinking, oh, why did I do it like that? You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't say I do too much prep right before a show, but if it's like if you're talking about the real preparation, that comes in the work that I put in to make the material.
Okay. Okay. But I think what I'm asking is how long does it take you typically to like formulate the jokes, and also, how long does it take for you to memorize? I think that's what I'm trying to get at, because in stand-ups that I've watched in the past, it's like, they're up there for an hour, 2 hours, and it's just like a stream of jokes that just never stop. So I'm wondering, is it difficult to memorize all those jokes that you need to tell on stage?
I would say for me, no, because I can remember things
Okay.
that I write down. That kind of sticks it in my head. So that helps. And again, doing it. Once I get up on stage and say it, now I've heard it and I've written it down. So it doesn't really take long for me to remember that joke.
Yeah.
But maybe I would say in the beginning of my career, it took me a little while to learn how to remember the order,
Okay.
like what order am I going to do these jokes in and stuff like
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
But I can't even say honestly where I picked up the skill to not have that issue anymore. But now at this point, it doesn't really matter. I just kind of get up there and go, okay, let me try this joke. Oh, that
Right.
worked. All right, let's go into this direction. Let's go in that direction.
Okay. And
Yeah,
so it's like a lot of memorization.
just a lot of repetition. It's just
Gotcha.
repetition for the most part.
Gotcha. So my next question to you is kind of going back to something you said earlier, again, just about how there's so many comedians out there that are really good. Is there anyone specific that you look up to that you feel like your style is kind of very similar to?
I would say because these are the comedians that I kind of grew up listening to. I would say my style is a bit of Eddie Murphy with some Chris Rock and some Chappelle
Mm,
and then a mixture of some of the things like I used to watch. Like I love British comedies.
okay.
Like I love stuff like Monty Python movies and stuff like that. I love tongue in cheek
Hmm.
style comedy. Like I just love stuff like that. So it's really a mixture of all of that.
Right. Can you explain what tongue in cheek means?
Uh, by definition, no, I really can't. It's weird, but let me. If you don't mind, I can look up a definition. But I can give you an example.
Yeah, I mean, an example would be perfect.
It's a style of wordplay, and it's like who does Mighty Python does a lot of tongue in cheek. Where it's like what's a good example? Like from the Holy Grail. Ah man, I'm blowing this one, man. I don't want to give you a bad definition of it.
Oh no, that's all right. It's like, so it's one of those things that you could just kind of, you're able to identify when you see it.
Yeah, because my dad, my father again was one of my inspirations. He used to put me on the movies like that, and he would tell me like, "Yeah, that's tongue in cheek." And
Okay.
now I'm realizing I never really stopped and looked up the definition of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, okay, boom, I got it. Google gave it to me. I had to look it up. It's irony, and that makes sense.
Okay.
It is
Oh, yes.
wordplay. It's you using irony in your wordplay, but it's sometimes it's not just wordplay. There will be irony kind of in the scene, like the whole
Mm,
scene will be ironic. So yeah,
okay.
that's tongue in cheek.
Okay. So would it be like The Office or like Parks and Recreation? Or is that more like a dry humor?
That's dry humor. I regret to say I've never watched a season of either one of those shows.
That's
But,
okay. That's
but no, I
absolutely
know they're great shows. I don't watch every show, so I don't
That's
know.
no, that's absolutely okay. So I'm going to get into my next question, which is how hard is it to make your content universal, or how easy is it for you? How hard, how easy? Whatever.
To be honest with you, I go to different demographics and do comedy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there's different scenes. There's definitely different scenes in the comedy game,
Hmm.
and I try the same jokes out in all those scenes. And if I
Wow.
go to one demographic and it doesn't work, and then I know, okay, I gotta switch this up. And if there's nothing I can switch up, then I just I leave it somewhere, or I'll just save it for when I'm just in another demographic.
Right,
But it
right.
doesn't go into my like. I have like there's a set that if I was to drop a special, boom, that's going to be the set.
Okay.
And some jokes that only work on one demographic would never make that set because it's
Right.
like I want everybody to see this and everybody to laugh. So
Mm,
yeah.
that's so interesting. Wow. Because, I guess, wow. I'm just like, I never really appreciated how difficult it was to be a comedian and to make people laugh. And so just hearing you say, the preparation that goes into it, the things that you do. I mean, even the fact that you go to different sorts of clubs just to see which jokes will fly and what won't fly. I have a greater appreciation for comedians and what you guys do, because it sounds like it's a kind of a difficult thing to do.
Yeah, it can be. But I guess I've never really looked at it as difficult in the grand scheme. Maybe in the moment I might be like, man, I hate it. I don't feel like waiting at this club till 2 in the morning, or I
Mm,
don't feel like getting there and then I gotta wait for 30 comedians to go before I get up or something like that.
yeah.
But in the grand scheme, I love it, man. I do it because when I see that finished result, when I get the opportunities that I get, I go, yeah, this is why I did it. And it
Awesome,
feels good.
awesome. So you've mentioned that you've done multiple shows at this point, which I'm not surprised by. But take us to the moment where you decided that you wanted to be a comedian, or where you were outward about being a comedian. So I guess when you 21, like you said, to when your first show happened. Like, take us through that moment.
Yeah, I was 21. I was outward with it, I guess after I dropped out and people asked me, what are you gonna do with your life? And I'm like, I'm gonna do comedy.
Hmm.
And then my first show was, let's see, I left school at the end of the school year. That's like May or something, May, June.
Hmm.
And then December was my first actual like show. I did a couple open mics before that. December was my first show. I did a competition and I came in, I came in second place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So was that for you the moment when you were like, I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing, or did that moment happen before then?
Uh, I felt like I was going in the right direction. I don't know if I felt like I was like going, this is exactly where I need to be. Nah, I think it was still like, man, I still suck at this.
Mm.
But I was, yeah, I felt like I was going in the right direction though. I was like second place, and the guys I was in the competition with, they had been doing comedy way longer than me.
Hmm.
So it felt good. It definitely felt like I was stepping in the right direction. Walking
Awesome.
in my purpose, I guess you could say.
Awesome. So prior to this, had you ever been on stage? I know you kind of were used to the attention being on you in school, but had you ever been in an arena of that caliber, speaking
Uh,
publicly?
uh here and there, I was a musician as a kid, so
Okay.
I played every percussion instrument. So I was always doing marching band or a chorus, what is it, orchestra or something like that. But then right before I dropped out of school, I did a competition. It was some kind of like school competition. I don't know what it was called, Mr. Something.
Hmm.
But it was like one of those pageant things where you had to, it was like a talent portion and all that. So I got up and I did a Stevie Wonder impersonation. And I had glasses on and I was just up there and I started singing songs and I won for some reason. They gave it to me.
Wow.
But dude, I never really had a problem being in front of people. So yeah, that was probably my biggest moment before comedy.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so it sounds like you didn't really, like the process of building up that confidence to get on stage to tell jokes, it was kind of like you already had that, right?
Yeah, it's almost like God kind of just built me up naturally in my life to just lead me there. And then when I
Yeah.
got there, it was like, oh, this feels natural. This
Right.
feels
Right.
normal. It doesn't feel too scary.
Right. Right. So, for many of the biggest comedians this country, the world has seen, a lot of their content and their careers are really rooted in tragic and misfortunate situations. Would you say that that was the case for you? And how has comedy helped you cope over the years, whether it's on a large scale or a small scale?
I wouldn't say my comedy has been brought to me through trauma, I guess you could say. It hasn't come out through trauma, but I can say it definitely helps me cope with the things that I deal with today.
Okay.
And yeah, and I mean, I've only realized that through the past year when I haven't been able to really do comedy as much, and the things that I've gone through have been just greater and greater.
Hmm.
So and not having comedy to kind of distract myself from it is different, and I'm
Right.
realizing that that was kind of a crutch for me. So
Mm,
yeah, it's a different time right now, but yeah, it definitely helps. It
yeah.
helps,
Yeah.
or maybe it doesn't help. I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist. I can't.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they say laughter is, it's so corny, it's such a cliche, but laughter is the best medicine. And I definitely do believe that that has some truth to it. But so, okay, so my next question to you is, how has your material changed as a comedian over the years, as you've grown mentally and also just as a comedian?
um, I would say my material, actually, like the stuff that I talk about hasn't changed as much. I've always kind of leaned into talking about my family. It just
Okay.
the thing, I talk about what I know. I talk
Right.
about my family. I talk about music. I
Mm,
talk about what makes me mad. I just give you that, and that's always been my thing. I'd say I'm working towards being more introspective with like my comedy and kind of giving people more of my feelings on things, but that
okay.
I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Right. That's okay. It's all like a journey. Um,
Yeah,
but so as a comedian, do people ever just like randomly ask you like to tell them a joke?
yeah, all the time,
And is
man.
that like, how is that for you? Is that like annoying? Is it flattering? Is it just like depend on the day how you feel about it?
It's not annoying, but it is kind of like it's like a standstill moment. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Now, because you kind of feel like it depends on the situation, of course, but you kind of feel like, damn, if I don't give you this joke, am I really a comedian in your eyes, or
Mm,
did I just fail right here? But
right.
I never give you the joke. I'm not giving it to you. I just take that feeling. I don't care. I'm
Yeah.
not, you're going to take it because again, there's a psychology to comedy.
Yeah.
So if you can hear a joke on stage and be like, yo, that was hilarious. If I would have told you that same joke off stage in an office or something like that, you would have been like in a regular conversation, you'd have been like, what are you talking about?
Mm,
So
yeah.
I'm not going to just relinquish one of my jokes
Right.
and let you tear it apart in your mind.
That makes sense. So as a comedian, what makes you laugh?
I'm goofy, man. I
Mm,
like goofy stuff. I like physical humor. I love physical humor. People are just people are just like doing things like
yeah.
DC Young Fly or like a Kramer. I don't know if we could talk about Kramer again. Are we allowed to? Is he off the hook? We can we?
I don't even know who that is, so feel free.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, I think you told me before. You don't really dabble in the television and the movies.
Mm-mm,
Yeah.
no.
Okay. Well, let the people decide. But like I like physical humor. I love it, man. So that I like really introspective humor as well. Stuff that like you said something about something topical that nobody else thought about. It's hard to come up with something about a topical matter that nobody else thought about because everybody's thinking about current events. You know what I'm saying? This is
Yeah.
every comedian is thinking about what just happened in the news. So if you
Right.
had something that nobody else thought about, I love that. Michael Che does that a lot. He's really funny if you know who he is.
I've
Really
actually
funny
heard that
guy.
name. Yes.
Yeah, really good at doing that, man. Yeah, I love stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've been doing comedy at this point for 7 years, consistently. How have you seen the industry change since you started? Because now, I mean, Vine was out when you first started. TikTok is now a thing. Instagram comedians are now a thing. So, how do you feel about how the industry has changed with all these extra added avenues?
I admit, maybe back in like 2014, 15, if you would have asked me this, I would have thrown on my Black Panther hat and I'd have been like, man, we gotta get them out of here. This is a revolution. But nah, I don't care. Not that I don't care. It kind of doesn't bother me per se, but it adds pressure on me because now I have to create an online presence for myself. That's where the game is now, and it's
Yeah.
not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I was mad about that for a while, but I'm just kind of accepting that that's where the world is. You kind of look foolish fighting against
Right.
where the world's going.
Right. So, with that being said, where do you see your future as a comedian? Where do you see the future of your career?
Uh, when the world opens back up, we getting back to the stage comedy, more clubs. I definitely want to do a tour. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I want to be like the touring comedian, but I definitely want to do a tour. I got a special. We're going to drop a special. Not we. I'm going to drop a special, but me and a couple comedians are working together to make it something greater than just a special. It's going to be something different.
Awesome.
So yeah, we. I got we. I keep saying we. I got things coming out. I have a actual credit coming out that I can't talk about. Television credit. I can't speak on that yet, but yeah, I just see more work. That's all I can say. More work, God willing.
Yeah, beautiful. So, the project that you mentioned first, that you're doing with your friends, is there like a set release date for that, or like do you have a general like is it gonna come out in the summer, the fall, this
Oh
year,
no,
next year?
no release date yet. We haven't even shot it yet, but
Okay.
we were kind of waiting out the storm with this
The
corona situation.
coronavirus.
So
Yeah.
yeah, now that we kind of see some bit of a light at the end of the tunnel, we're
Right.
looking at we're looking at a date to start shooting. So
Awesome. Awesome. Well, definitely keep us updated on that so I can share it with my viewers and the people who um, have been watching the shows. But so, my next and final question to you is: are you ever nervous or concerned about your content sounding or feeling too reminiscent of former sets? Like, how do you continue to grow your material in a way that feels authentic to you but doesn't feel too trite and overdone?
well, I guess in a way that comes with practice as well. You gotta you can't go up there and sound like I wrote these down. Listen to these jokes. You
Yeah.
gotta before you get into a set. A lot of times, before like yeah. So I have an answer. A lot of times in regular settings of comedy that aren't comedy clubs, you have to address things that are going on in the room.
Right.
Have to address something that's going on in the room, address somebody in the room, address the way that the show's been going, talk to the people
Mm,
before you go into your jokes.
right.
Because it kind of makes them feel like, okay, this guy is just talking.
Gotcha.
I don't know where the transition is from this is a comedy show to this guy is just talking for the audience. I
Mm,
don't know how that happens psychologically, but I see it happening as a comedian. I've
okay.
seen it where I've just gotten up and I started telling these jokes, and they're like, "Oh, he's just telling jokes."
Yeah.
And I've seen it where I got up and talked about something funny that happened real quick on stage or off stage. Oh, they say you get him dropping glasses in the back, something stupid.
Mm.
And now they feel like, oh, this guy's just kind of he's being real with us. He's just talking to us. He's just giving us something that happened today.
Right, right. So it's a lot of improv work. Okay, so actually, when you said that, I thought of something else. So I've always heard that the first like row or so is like up for grabs. If you sit in the first row or second, like the first, second, third row, whatever, like you're open to being the bid. Is that the case?
Again, depends on where you at. Comedy clubs, yes, you are open to it. comedy clubs, that's the norm, and mainly because that's the only people you can see.
Right.
The way they set up lighting in comedy clubs, if it's done right, they'll put it so you can only see that first row, and
That
the rest
first
of it
row.
is just kind of a blackout.
Right.
Or at least you can't see anybody well enough to be like, oh,
Making
look
a
at what
joke.
you got on, or look what you're doing over there.
Right, right,
So
right.
that first row is up for grabs. Now, in other settings, depending on how they set it up, everybody might be up for grabs. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? Or
Yeah.
that first row might just be empty. People don't even go to that first row.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So how often do you yourself sit in the audience of a comedy show?
uh, mm, depends. I like getting on stage. It bothers me in a weird way when I just watch people get on stage and I don't get on stage.
It makes
I'm
sense.
childish with it, yo. I like to touch the mic, pause, and I like to touch the mic and just talk to the people, man. But yeah.
Okay. And so this is actually my actual last question, I swear. So I'm looking behind you and I see a whole bunch of music. Some things that I recognize, James Brown. There's just is that Aretha Franklin right there? The Isley Brothers, just so many different amazing Black artists are right behind you. So I assume that you really like music.
Yep.
And so I'm wondering if music also inspires your career as much as other comedians do.
Yeah. Like I said, my material, I have a lot of music
Yes,
material
you did
in
say
my
that.
yeah, I love it. And I also I want to do work with musicians. So I think it's going to affect my future career as well. Because I love how music, especially R&B, I love how R&B and comedy goes together. The poetry too. Poetry goes really well with comedy. You
Yeah,
put a couple poets up before a comedy show, and it's like the poetry sets the stage for people to just be listening.
that's so interesting.
And
Wow.
then the comedy comes and it's almost like every joke hits. It's I've seen it work so many times, yo.
I
That
wonder
is
why that
beautiful,
is.
yo. It's crazy. But yeah,
Wow. I wonder why that is. That's really interesting because that's something that I would have never known had I not had this conversation with you.
yeah, it's a weird thing.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, that was the last thing I had. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on and talk about before we say goodbye?
Uh I don't I like that pick in the back. I was gonna ask a couple questions, but I feel like this is something way too professional for where my mind is going.
Oh,
So
no,
I
please
like that
ask.
pick. Dope. Are
You
those
know, it's
vaginas?
funny. I actually
Are
made
those,
it.
are those
And this is
vaginas that are
really,
holding the plant? Is that what that is?
huh?
Are those vaginas that are holding the plant? Is that what is
No,
going on?
no, it's just
Oh, okay.
a no, it's just what's it called? I mean, it kind of does look like that
I,
actually, but no, it's just a planter. But it's funny you asked
okay.
about this because I actually am about to start making and selling these picks. I actually made this myself out of resin and flowers. Yeah. Just to give you guys a little bit of tidbit about myself and also you. I make bookmarks
Hey.
out of pressed flowers and leaves. And so I have like a side business doing that. Yeah. And so recently I was like, I have afro, I like flowers. How else can I expand my business? And so I started making these picks. But I had an influx of orders. So for bookmarks, so I haven't really been able to focus on these, but this is coming very soon. So yeah,
Yeah, I like that.
thank
I
you.
like that. And you should also start making vagina pot holders. You should do that. I'm telling you. I'm
I mean,
telling you.
that seems to be where the world is moving.
Yo, the feminist movement would eat that up, yo. You can
Yeah.
sell them at the next march.
Wow. Well, thank you for the idea. I like, and you know, it's funny because that wasn't the first time that I felt like, oh, this kind of looks like a vagina. But you know, now that you said it, I'm like, okay, it's confirmed. But I actually got this from like a Goodwill. um, but thank you so much. I mean, if there was nothing else that you had, just plug yourself really quick, plug your socials, and then we'll say goodbye.
Oh yeah, man. You can find me on Facebook at Marcus Levar. You can find me on Instagram at Marcus__underscore Levar. That's Levar. Remember that. People can't spell Levar for some reason. And I'm about to make a new Twitter. I don't have a Twitter right now, but I'm gonna make a new one soon. So y'all find me on that. I'll mix that in with all the other stuff. You guys will see it if you follow me on Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Marcus, for being here. It's been lovely talking to you, learning more about what you do in the comedy world. And I would love to come see your show once the world clears up. So definitely, stay in touch and let me know about that. And I also want to thank you guys again for tuning into another episode of A Millennial Voice. You guys have been rocking with me since August at this point. So I guess it's been almost a year soon. So I just want to thank you guys humbly, but also to remind you that I also write for the newspaper as well as my amazing talented colleagues. You can check us out at www.philosun.com, or you can get the paper and print for only $40 a year. Again, everyone, thank you for being here. Marcus, it was great talking to you, and I will talk to you soon.
Peace.
Bye.